Let me cut right to the chase and say to President Mugabe, I'm sorry, Mr. President, but I do not believe that the $15 billion is missing. I cannot believe that it is missing simply because you tell the nation that it is. The reality is that $15 billion does not just go missing. Somebody knows where it is and why it is where it is. My countrymen, if $15 billion was really missing, then Obed Mpofu, the former Minister of Mines, would not be in cabinet today. Not because under his watch the nation was prejudiced, but because of compromising this government's ability to maintain their patronage system. This government wants you and me to believe that it is missing, but lawa iwa manga sibili. It's indeed nemacha. They want us to believe that it is missing, so we can blame it on carelessness, particularly since most of us have fooled ourselves into believing they are idiots and not the shrewd and cunning politicians that they are. This is a serious matter that needs every Zimbabwean to be seriously exercised about. We must remember that it costs money to rig elections. It takes resources to resist change, to purchase bullets, tear gas, and whatever the security services need to threaten people. We cannot afford not to believe that the supposedly missing billions are ZANU-PF's strategic reserve to fund the ultimate fight to stop the will of the people from prevailing. At key moments in the post-independence history of our nation, those seeking change have been lulled into believing that ZANU-PF has changed. This was the case during the government of national unity between 2009 and 2013. There is a reason the opposition was nikuved. And it was because they did not pay attention to Jeremiah 13:23, which says, "Can an Ethiopian change his skin or a leopard its spots? Neither can you do good who are accustomed to doing evil." We are entering a period where we cannot afford not to be vigilant, not to be suspicious of a party that has become accustomed to doing evil. This is not the time to give a party which continues to destroy our country the benefit of the doubt. It is important for the international community to recognize that our Minister of Finance's desperate pleas does not mean that ZANU-PF has changed, or that it does not have a plan to foil the will of the people in 2018. It is one thing to be desperate and quite another to have changed one's ways. The response of the ZANU-PF government to people expressing their pain and seeking to have their voices heard has proven over and over again that ZANU-PF is still ZANU-PF. The attempts to craft laws that make it illegal for private citizens to own the flag simply because it has become a symbol for the people's demand for change is more than ample proof that ZANU-PF is still ZANU-PF. The ordering of private and state-owned communication companies to increase the price of internet bundles to ensure that the voices of change are not heard by the people who deserve the change the most is more than enough proof that ZANU-PF is still ZANU-PF. The attempt to criminalize free expression by draconian cyber terrorism laws is proof that ZANU-PF is still ZANU-PF. It would be bad enough if this was all. It is important to understand that ZANU-PF's number one priority is not making the lives of Zimbabwe citizens better. It is not paying civil servants their salaries on time. It is not making sure that the people and nation's potential and promise are fully actualized. If any of these had been their number one priority, Obed Mpofu and many others would have been fired. The reality is that ZANU-PF's number one priority is remaining in power. And I'm sure that they will not just use laws, but go to any lengths, including violence, to do so. President Mugabe, who is known not to issue empty threats, is on record as saying he has degrees in violence. Now, because of this strategic reserve, the blood of innocent Zimbabweans will be spilled unless we accomplish an unprecedented mobilization of Zimbabweans and friends of Zimbabwe who are sympathetic to our cause to say ZANU-PF rule must come to an end now. Part of ZANU-PF's strategy to remain in power includes changing the rules of the game for everyone else except themselves. You know, during the war, ZANU-PF and ZAPU received help not just from the Russians, North Koreans and Chinese who gave them weapons and ammunition. They received material help from individuals, churches, and organizations from all over the world, including the West. They received scholarships from the British Council and the International Institute of Education to study at Western universities. And most were granted asylum because they would have paid with their lives if they returned to Rhodesia. It's not just the idea that 15 billion is missing that is a lie. There is a whole retelling of the story of the struggle that is a lie. It is not just those who crossed the border who paid the price for the independence of this country. Not everyone they called a traitor during the war was a traitor. There's a reason why books such as Zimbabwe Struggles Within a Struggle by the late Masipula Sithole is not found in Zimbabwe's bookstores. As grateful as we have been as a nation that there were gallant sons and daughters of Zimbabwe who brought us our independence, the stories of young women who went to join the struggle being raped, that freedom fighters like the late Freedom Nyamubaya used to tell, cannot be ignored. Neither can the killings of people falsely accused of being collaborators by those who wanted to consolidate their positions within the liberation movement. The history of proving the sharpness of our knives against our own is hardly a post-independence phenomenon. There is a long history of that in our country. Fellow citizens, we have had almost their moments in our country because we have chosen to ignore the obvious. None of what we must conclude about ZANU-PF is hidden except to those who choose to be blind. Let me conclude with these words from Jeremiah 21:12. O house of David, thus says the Lord, administer justice every morning and deliver the person who has been robbed from the power of his oppressor, that my wrath may not go forth like fire and burn with none to extinguish it because of the evil of their deeds. There are many who have not only been robbed of material possessions, but of their sons and daughters. Like the 15 billion we are asked to believe is missing, we are also asked to believe that this government has nothing to do with the disappearance of Zimbabwe's sons and daughters like Itai Dzamara, Rashiwe Guja, and others before them. Countrymen, this is Dr. Noah Manyika from Build Zimbabwe saying, do not believe a lie. Is there not a cause?